This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Oh, boy. This ought to be a fun broadcast. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? There we go. Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. We're broadcasting at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, Studio A. And at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to be discussing conspiracies and information that I know about the moon landing. And there's a link to all of your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com, USAPrepares.com. Podcasts on Genesis are absolutely free. Converging Threats, confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dave's producing the broadcast, the syndicated worldwide broadcast at Genesis Communications, the world's largest alternative radio network. Today we're going to be discussing survival economics with Frank Underhill. He'll be up in just a second. Meet up tonight, 5:30, Ziggy's, Springfield, Missouri. Dr. Shealy's going to be with us, and we're going to be talking about optimal health. How to lower your blood pressure, and any medical questions that you have for Dr. Norman Shealy. He'll be glad to answer them. Normally, he stays from 5:30 to about 9. So, Dr. Norman Shealy, Ziggy's tonight. And Roy Birdsong is going to be with us from Choose Your Own Wireless. He's our cell phone instructor, and I'm very concerned about the cell phone tracking. Obviously, you're paying attention to the news. You know what's happening. With the NSA and government agencies spying, invading us. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's no limit to the extent that these guys want to know everything about you. When I was growing up, it was considered embarrassing if someone listened in on a conversation. I'm talking about standing 15 feet away from you and could hear you. You wouldn't do that because it was an invasion of privacy. These guys are in our pants, in our phones, in our houses, snooping from the street. They've got long-range microphones. These guys are unbelievable. They are a national disgrace. So I asked Roy Birdsong if he would present a seminar on how to avoid cell phone tracking. He's going to be with us tonight. And I asked John Dollarhide of Dollar Value Computers. He's our computer instructor, and he's going to be presenting a seminar on avoiding computer tracking and avoiding spyware wherever we can. We're going to be talking about Linux, and it's all tonight. It's free, obviously. It always is. Meet up, 5:30. Information's on the website, Springfield, Missouri, Ziggy's. And the reason I discuss meetups is what we're trying to do is USAPrepares.com is trying to lead by example. What we're saying is that you too can have meetups where you are. Just find a restaurant that has a like-minded owner and explain to them that you'd like to have a meetup, like-minded people. You're not going to be rowdy. You're going to be very polite. You'd like to have dinner. You'd like to have special pricing where you'll be a regular group there. And you will not make a mess, and you'd like to stay a few hours on a specific night, either once a week, twice a month, once a month, and find an independent restaurant owner. Forget the chains. Forget IHOP. Forget any national chain. They're not interested in us. You're going to have to find a restaurant that has an independent owner that lives in the community. So that's how it works. And, we've tried the national change, and they say, yeah, we've got to call corporate headquarters, and we'd love to have you. We'd love to have 110, 120, 150, 200 people, once a week. We'd love to have that. But corporate headquarters is not interested. They really aren't. So you need to find an independent restaurant owner who lives in the community. and sit down with him or her and explain that you'd like to have a meetup and that you are patriots, that you are freedom-loving people, and you'd like to have a seminar from someone local in the community to teach something that's not taught in school, the kinds of things that we do here at usaprepares.com. And I'm sure you can work it out. I'm sure you can. We've had, when we first started out, we might have had 45 people a couple of years ago. We average 110 every Monday night. We've had as many as, well over 200. We've had so many people that you can't even get into the restaurant. We've had 6 people in a 4-person booth easily. I mean, we have had standing room line out the door. That's the kind of thing that we do. And tonight's going to be a big meetup because we've got Dr. Norman Shealy. He's going to be with us talking about medicine. We've got Roy Birdsong and John Dollarhide talking about computers. So it's going to be a big meetup. So you can do the same thing. We run a kind of a loose ship. I don't leave until we're done, and a lot of times that's like midnight. With us today is Frank Underhill, underhillsecurities.com, Las Vegas, Nevada. He's the CEO. And welcome, Frank Underhill.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be here. We have a lot to talk about this morning.
Hey, Frank, yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting fan mail. Fan mail for you, people.
Thank you.
Seriously, Frank, I get people are sending me emails, and they're not just like, I like Frank. I mean, these are long emails. You have a fan club. It's the coolest thing. You really do.
Well, Vincent, we talk about a wide myriad of topics, usually focused around what your listeners obviously are tuned into. And no one else addresses this, and I just wish that more and more people would be, listening and following up with the USA Prepares. And incidentally, Vincent, you put on probably one of the best programs. Your guests are, if not controversial, intriguing in the least to say, and people should be listening. And even if people listen to the program and they even do absolutely nothing with what we're talking about, but at least it's another venue to broaden their knowledge on various events and issues.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Preparedness.
I'll tell you a funny story, Frank. I broadcast on. I've been fired. Let's see, on another network. I've been fired 3 times within a year. And they fire me, and they go, shoot, shouldn't have done that. And they bring me back, and they go, no, we should have done it. And then they fire me again. And then they go, shouldn't have done it. And they bring me back. And then they go, no, we really should have done it. And they fire me again. So I've been fired 3 times on another network, which will remain nameless. And then now today is the second to the last day of me broadcasting on KWTO, which is an AM station. No, the Rooster, no, that's different. The Rooster loves us.
Okay.
KWTO is the powerhouse of the Midwest. It's AM 560, Springfield, Missouri. Now, I have a contract with them for a year, and it's up tomorrow. And so they haven't said a word to me, not a single word. Not, hey, Vinny, your contract's coming up. We need to renew. What they're going to do is they're going to let it expire. They're going to let it expire because I'm so controversial in the Springfield market. I don't think they can stand me. They have like it used to be a love-hate relationship. Now I think it's just a hate relationship. I have, there's a guy in Springfield. His name is Greg Burris. He's a city manager. And so I get, in the afternoon program, I give out his phone number. I tell people to call him, tell him he's fired for poisoning us, putting fluoride in the water. I tell people, hey, if you're going to the restaurants, you bring your own water because you certainly don't want to drink the fluoride from the city utilities, water system. And I'm trying to get people to do that because if they bring their own drink to a restaurant, that's the restaurant's highest profit margin item. So I'm thinking that if we bring our own water or our own beverage, the restaurant will lose that revenue and start calling the city government saying, hey, if you don't pull this fluoride out of the water and these people don't stop bringing their own beverages, we're going to go under. So I'm thinking, like, not only do we call up the city manager and beat him up and tell him he's fired, but we do the economic push from the restaurants to let people know that they're drinking poisonous water. So we are not welcome, meaning USA Prepares is not welcome in Springfield, Missouri, because we go after the city government when they try to hurt us. And, I expose them for their outrageous taxes. They have little tax sections, like one little section of town. I'm talking like a street maybe 1,000 feet long is a separate tax area where they charge a higher tax because they'll have a special deal with a business there. So the business will say, okay, we'll move in, we'll bring our big box store in there, we'll move in there, but we want a traffic light and we want all these features. And then the city says, well, how are we going to pay for that? Well, we'll have to have higher taxes on that street on your block. So they have these higher tax blocks, so that they can accommodate the demands of these big businesses. And so people don't know that the sales tax is higher, block by block by block. So we expose that, and they hate it. They absolutely hate it. They want this stuff to be unknown. So that's so tomorrow will be my last broadcast on KWTO in the afternoon. And I'll tell you what, I feel like I'm going on vacation. I do. You know what it feels like to like you're a week out from the vacation, you're looking forward to it, and then it's like 3 days, and then there's going on vacation tomorrow. That's how I feel right now, and it's kind of odd. But what happened, Frank, is the rooster called me up, and they said, hey, that's Big Country 99. They said, hey, Vinny, we believe in so much what you're doing. We're going to carry you for 2 hours. And if you want to broadcast live for 2 hours, go ahead. If you want to do a rebroadcast from Genesis, go ahead. So they're an affiliate of us. They carry us every day, but they're going from 1 hour to 2 hours. And I can just throw the switch whenever I want and do live broadcasts 2 hours a day. So that's, we're growing. USAPrepares.com is growing. And we're going to an international satellite starting the 1st of next month. Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Russia starting the 1st of next month. Frank Underhill's with us. We're going to talk about survival economics when we come back. This is USAPrepares.com. Frank's with us. Frank Underhill, CEO, UnderhillSecurities.com, UNDERHILL Securities.com. Frank, we had a real busy weekend. I was expecting to cut and bale hay, and I'd like to talk about agriculture for a couple minutes. And it relates to economics. Here in the Ozark Mountains, we're having a lot of humidity, a lot of dampness, nonstop rain. Well, it's not nonstop, but the ground is wet all the time. There are beads of moisture on it. And what this is doing is we should have cut our hay weeks ago. And it's not just us. All the farmers around us cannot cut their hay because the fields have not dried out, and the rain has pounded the grass so that it's lying low. It's not standing straight up, so it's still wet. It's still damp. Now, if we cut our hay and try to bale it, we'll bale it wet. It will become very moldy, and it will be worthless. It will not be useful for the cows. And so we can't cut it. Now, as we wait longer and longer, the grass gets tougher and tougher, and it loses its nutritional value to the animals. So we are in trouble because we have too much moisture now. Now, what I'm trying to relate is it appears that everything's fine, that water's being replenished to the system, the underground aquifers, but the grass that we depend on to feed our cows for the winter, we don't have any yet, even though there's grass everywhere. So it appears that everything's fine, and it's worse than it was last year because we can't even cut it. So I wanted to share that with you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, last year we went through severe droughts, and now you're obviously seeing where meat prices are in the market now. There's fewer and fewer in-store specials as you're seeing. Mm-hmm. And now we have the opposite, where there's just simply too much rain, and the ground is basically mush. And
That's right.
you'll have like you said, a lot, like being in an ocean on a life raft, a lot of water, but not a drop to drink. And we could. Sorry.
That's it.
Go
That's
ahead.
exactly right.
Yeah.
We are having so much rain that we cannot bale. As a matter of fact, the grass is so damp. I don't think the mower has. We have enough horsepower, literally, in these tractors that would easily cut this hay. It is so wet we can't cut it. I tried to pick up some hay to see how it would work, and I got it stuck in the baler, and I'm waiting for it to dry out just a little bit so I can get it unstuck from the baler. We have a John Deere baler. It'll produce about 1,000-pound roll of hay, and it normally works flawlessly. But it's the hay is so damp. I baled about, I guess, maybe 100,000 pounds so far, but I don't think it's going to survive because I think it's too damp. So I think that the chance that I took on a small amount that I baled so far was a mistake. I don't know for sure. I will know, by the end of the summer, see if it dries out. But if it doesn't, I made a mistake and wasted 100,000 pounds of hay. But the rest I can't bale because it's too damp. So what I'm saying, Frank, is right now, if anyone has cows, they're probably eating very well. They're probably very healthy. They're probably putting on some weight. But what happens at the end of the summer when we need to start feeding the cows hay and we don't have any hay? I see a glut on the market, at least in this marketplace, where people will have to sell their cows because they won't be able to feed them through the winter, which will cause a dramatic drop in price for a very short time, and then the price will go way up because the farmers and the ranchers will not have the stock to rebuild their herds. That's what I'm seeing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I have a question. I don't want anything to get stupid, but can hay get mold if it's too damp?
No, that's exactly what's happening now. It's getting moldy right now.
It's toast.
Yeah, see, here's the problem. We've cut this 100,000 pounds of hay, and the rain was coming in, the hay was on the ground. We had to rake it and bale it right away or we'd lose it. And it was a little too damp, but we did it anyway because we had no choice. And now it's in a barn, and it's damp. And the moisture in the air is so damp, the hay won't dry out even in the barn. We got a big problem. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. We're talking about hay. We'll talk about gold when we come back. Class, here on Genesis Communications Network, last time I checked, there are about 67 of us broadcasters on Genesis Communications Network. There may be even more now. A lot of us expose things that are happening that are just flat out not in the mainstream sanitized media. And we talk about conspiracies, and we talk about conspiracy fact. It used to be that people who would discuss those types of things would be considered nuts. Well, now if you look at the magnitude of the scandals of this current administration, they absolutely Watergate, which brought down the Nixon administration in 1974. The scandal broke in 1972, where there was a break-in at the Watergate Hotel. There was a little bit of spying going on, and a few people were involved. 5 were arrested. But it brought down the President of the United States. Right now, we have a scandal. Not one scandal. We don't even have the trifecta of scandals. This is so many scandals all going on at the same time. I can't believe the administration is still standing. I am absolutely serious. Every single American has been spied upon. every one of us, our records for concealed carry weapon information from Missouri has been given by the Department of Revenue over to the federal government. Our driver's license information has been given over to the federal government. In Missouri, they are now trying to do biometric scans to have our licenses. As a matter of fact, I don't know what to do and whether I'm just not going to renew my driver's license or what, because I am not going to give my biometric information over to the federal government. And how this is continuing, and they're saying that the one gentleman involved who broke the information about the NSA spying was a contractor, and he broke the information. He's in Hong Kong right now, and people are saying, is he a hero or is he a traitor? He's a hero. He's a hero. He's actually bringing forth information that all of your telephone records are being copied. And here's the way here's my understanding of it. The government has been asked, do you have hooks into the to the server farms at Apple and Verizon? No, we don't go into their servers, and we don't pull out your records. What happens is they have separate rooms with servers, and they do a massive transfer on a daily basis of this information. So the government has its own servers, and the government has the information from the servers of these major corporations. So the government is not going into Verizon servers. The government is going into its own servers, which has the information that was just transferred from the other servers. What I'm saying is language is very important. So if you were to say, are you accessing Verizon's phone records on their servers? No. Nope. Are you accessing Verizon records on your servers? Well, yes, we are. Interesting, huh? So when you listen to the mainstream media, be really careful. Don't assume that you understand what they're saying, because they may couch in very specific language what's information that they don't want you to know, like they are spying on you. And we here at Genesis Communications have been saying for years, not just me, there's a whole bunch of us that say the same thing. We're being spied on every level. And if you think that you can buy something online and not be tracked, forget it. I mean, I bought some tires at Tire Rack, and I just went and I searched, and I wanted specific tires. I live on a gravel road. I buy a lot of tires from Tire Rack because it's probably the best price that I can find, TireRack.com. This is not a commercial. It's just where I buy my tires. I have all over, like almost every other page that I search on the internet, there's an ad for tires. Now, that's because I did a search for tires 2 weeks ago. Non-stop ads for tires. We are being tracked, and it's not just me. It's happening to you too. Frank, does that happen to you?
Well, I can't say I've been particularly a victim of it, but I do know that everything I do, I'm already under surveillance anyways. When you look at the inner mail, the email is called not email but evidence mail. Everything I keep online is archived. Now, I don't know how the spying goes, but everything I keep. So obviously, the regulators already have the apparatus in place to require emails, and I get all sorts of emails, even emails that have nothing to do with my line of work or my profession, but just even regular, about stuff that we talk about on the program. And the way it's going is like they say that the government is to look after our citizens, but I think the government looks at its citizens as its own enemies. Because you got to spy on something, if you have to regulate it, it's a threat. You don't need it. And the citizens are the enemy now to this government. And anyone who could even think of spying on like when the Internet was first created, it was supposed to be the World Wide Web free of regulations, free of taxation. People can communicate with the explosion of social networking and e-commerce and all this other stuff that comes with the internet. Has made our lives definitely a lot easier, but it's also reigning in freedom. And I just like your listeners to know that when we go on the internet, like you say, for simple tires, well, someone can put that input into a computer. There could be an algorithm generated which prompts somebody to follow up, and the next thing you know, you might have a call from the Secret Service at your doorstep for no reason, and that can easily happen. That's what this is setting up a precursor to, where you can go on the internet for anything and have the black trench coats show up at your doorstep in a black sedan easily. And I don't want to sound like paranoid. I don't, I'm a very well-balanced person and, level-headed. But this is what can happen. It can make Hitler's surveillance apparatus, when they had trucks going up and down the street with a antenna going around looking for radio frequencies. This is way, way worse. This could be billions and billions of bytes and gigabytes, processed in a computer. And, of course, now they use algorithmic technology to ferret key vowels, nouns, phrases out. So it's very alarming.
Frank, I'll tell you a story, interesting story. Back in the 1990s, I had a computer manufacturing company. And one day, this man, I'd say he was in his 40s, pulled up in a real beat-up, dusty Blazer, Chevrolet Blazer type vehicle. And, it really looked like he lived on one of those tobacco farms that is out in Virginia. And he was unshaven, and he had on clothes that kind of looked like maybe he changed his oil, and he got some on his hands, and he wiped them on his on his pants, and he had a T-shirt on. And he said, I got a computer problem. I was wondering if you could help me. And I said, sure, what's going on? And he said, well, can you come with me? I'll show you. So we hop in this, and I follow him, and he hops in his vehicle, and I follow him out to this remote location. And it's an old building, and it looks like it has shingles on the side of it that have been there from the 40s. On the side, as siding, they had these shingles that kind of look like red bricks back then. This thing is falling apart. This is an old shack. Inside, we go in there. There's no sign. It's buried in the middle of nowhere. Inside is high-tech surveillance equipment. This was the state police. They brought me in, and they said they had, I was the only guy they could trust. And this was their surveillance equipment. They had some problems. They need some help fixing it. So I helped them fix it. And back then they had these little cameras. These cameras were the size, the lens on a camera was like the size that you would make if you'd made a little tiny dot with a pencil point. This was back in the 1990s. And they were doing surveillance of people in the woods for growing marijuana. This was the state police. Now, keep that in mind as I tell you the rest of the story. So they checked me out. They found out that I have an absolutely clean, spotless record. And they needed my help to fix their equipment, which I did. And I didn't charge them for it. Now, fast forward several years after that, I lived in this little town of about 500 people. And whenever I got my car inspected, I would call up the local gas station, which was the only place there were two places you could get your car inspected at the time. And I'd call them up and I'd say, hey, this is Vinny. Can I bring 3 vehicles over and get them inspected? Now, bear in mind, I was an independent businessman and time was important to me. So I could get all 3 of my cars inspected, like 1, 2, 3, and they knew that I had a rotary lift on my property, and I maintained my vehicles to the highest degree. They knew they'd never find anything wrong with any of my vehicles. So inspection was done very quickly. And whenever I was done, I would tip the person at least 50% of the cost of the inspection. So let's say the inspection was $20. I would give him $30. Now, and it was always the same thing. He never wanted to be tipped. So I would just take all the money that I was going to pay him for the 3 cars plus the tip, and I would just put it in his shirt pocket. When I come back, I'll tell you the rest of the story. You won't believe it. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli. We're talking about economics, and we're going to talk about gold. But I'm telling you a story about spying. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us. And so, Frank, I was telling the story about how when I lived in Virginia, I lived in this very small town, about 500 people, and when we got our cars inspected annually, it was really important to me to get them all done one after another. So all the registrations were arranged so that we could have them, all the cars inspected on one day, and of one day of the year, and get it all done. And I was so grateful for the person who worked at the gas station, one of the owners, for doing this, that I would tip him, and he would never want to be tipped. So I would just take the tip money as well as the fee, and I would just roll it up and fold the cash in 4, and I just stuff it in his front pocket, and I'd leave, his shirt pocket. And this had been going on for years. I mean, like 10 years, easily. And, he would take care of me, and I would thank him and give him a tip. So one day, and this is an older gas station, okay, with an older service station with oil on the floor and stuff everywhere. I mean, you'd look in there, and it was jam-packed with all kinds of stuff. And this particular gas station had so many cars. It was the busiest place in town. I never understood it. Not everybody was buying gas, but there were cars everywhere. And people were pulling in, pulling out all the time. Well, one day I got my car inspected, and I said to the owner, I said, wow, place looks great. It really looks great. You got everything organized? And he said, yeah, well, we want to, take care of our customers. And I said, no, I mean, it really looks great. It looks like, you took everything out of here, scrubbed it down, power washed it, and put everything back. It's all organized. This really looks great. And he said, well, we want to take care of our customers. So I gave him the tip, put the money in his pocket, and after the inspection, stopped off at the post office, picked up the weekly newspaper, got home to the farm, and on the kitchen table, I opened up the newspaper front page. There's his picture. He was arrested. And the state police and multi-jurisdictional people came in, and there was a drug bust. What happened was they were selling drugs in the men's room and in the ladies' room of this particular gas station. So there were pigeonholes in the ceiling, and you just raise a tile, and you would take your own drugs and put your money in the pigeonhole. Now, I couldn't believe it. So I'm thinking, oh, man, I've been putting money in this guy's shirt pocket for 10 years. And the article talked about the surveillance and the security and the footage that they recorded. So I called the guy that I helped with the state police, and I said, I can't believe it. I said, here's what I've been doing for 10 years. He goes, we know. We got it on tape. So they have Vinny on tape, putting money in this guy's pocket, right, for 10 years. And they're running the biggest drug ring in the county. And he said, well, we know you're not involved. But so what I'm saying is this spying stuff has been going on for years. And I felt so foolish. For tipping him that way. Frank, is that wild or what?
It's crazy, and you don't want to be in any situation where you're compromised like that. And I say shame on that person for putting you in that kind of predicament. Terrible.
Yeah, but But it's like an Italian custom. If you try to give someone a tip and they won't take it, you just put it in their shirt pocket and you walk away. That's just you win the argument. You say, look, I'm going to tip you. If you don't want to take it, I'm sorry. Here it is anyway. Thanks so much. And then you give it to them and you leave. But they had it on tape, and so they've been recording this. And I had no idea that at the highest levels of the county, people were buying drugs, and that was the distribution warehouse, the gas station, the service station. We come back, Frank. Gold, $13.79.20. Silver, $21.79. What is going on? Let's talk about premiums, because I heard a guy on the radio say, "Oh, premiums are going to go to zero." I'd like to know what your thoughts are. I don't think so. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. There we go. And I am right here in Studio A. Cocked and locked. Frank Underhill's with us. Frank Underhill, CEO of UnderhillSecurities.com. Frank Underhill was one of Bob Chapman's most trusted advisors. I'm very serious. Bob Chapman would call Frank Underhill many times a day and get the latest updates and information from Frank Underhill on specific issues. Frank, why don't you share with us some of the information, the types of information that you would provide for Bob Chapman? And because he was on, at one time, he was on 44 hours of broadcasting a week. He was broadcasting like 4 times more than most broadcasters, most big name broadcasters. He had more hours of radio than probably anybody I know. What kind of information did you share with Bob Chapman, Frank?
Well, I basically shared with him about the my situation are small cap resource companies, and I would tell him that what companies are drilling where there's potential, and just focusing on the small resource issues, and because no one really follows it, and that's what Bob Chapman participated in. Every company he ever looked at were all small caps. Now, some were humongous, some were bust, but then he also had huge winners as well too. But the key is just getting the information out there, and he would share that information with his subscribers, and they would come to him through the broadcast he was on. And not only that, he was on like 40 plus hours a week. Like, I don't know of any other personality that's on the radio as much like that as a full-time job. I think Alex is like 17 hours a week. So Chapman, sure did, above and beyond that. But that being said, he was focused on the juniors. Not a lot of people followed on them, and actually, I still have confidence in junior miners. I think just because the gold stocks have just taken a big clobbering. I think if gold, or when, not if, but when gold does show recovery, I think that people should be giving juniors a second look, and if not, even the producers that are trading at ridiculously low prices as well. You have to buy undervalued, not overvalued, and gold down at these levels, I think, presents a buying opportunity, and particularly silver. I think silver has just been hit hardest out of all the preciouses that I follow. Silver has just been really decimated because it has no lead from, of course, gold.
Frank, I want to tell you that I get a lot of calls when I'm not on the air, and I get information. People are interested in all kinds of things, and some of the calls that I'm getting indicate to me people are very interested in buying precious metals. This is not marketing what I'm doing. I'm just relaying information that I'm seeing. For example, people who attend the meetups in Springfield are interested in increasing their holdings of precious metals. And here's the really interesting thing. Premiums are high, and I'd like to get your opinion on premiums. Do you think they'll ever go away? That's one of the questions I have for you. I don't believe it, but I think there are always premiums, and there always have been, and there always will be. But in terms of owning precious metals, do you think that more and more people are concerned about the Federal Reserve notes and want to get into precious metals and get out of Federal Reserve notes?
Well, I think the only one who's really into these Federal Reserve notes, of course, is the Federal Reserve itself. I don't know of anybody none of my clients, anyways, are buying this kind of product. Simple reason, because it doesn't pay out anything. And why buy a Federal Reserve note when you just keep your money in a bank or tucked under your mattress?
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is people are really interested in precious metals, and silver seems to be what they're interested in the most right now. And I think my take on that is that it's affordable, and you can have more ounces per Federal Reserve note, and I think that's why they're doing it. But even though the premiums are high right now, I'm just looking at the current price of silver, $21.79, as a spot price, but you can't buy it for that. The premiums are like 20% on top of that. Is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm seeing, but the reason why the premiums are high is because the metals prices are so low, where more of the premium is transparent, because when you have silver trading at these low prices and gold trading at these low prices,
Did we just lose Frank?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I just thought we lost you for a second.
No. So yeah, that's the only reason why you're seeing it like this. When metals pick up, people are more than happy to pay the premium, because then at that point everybody wants in, and no one really pays attention to it.
Okay, and I heard somebody say, I couldn't believe it. I literally heard somebody say, silver's going to go right down to the metal price. The premiums are going to disappear. I don't believe that for a second. Do you?
No, that's all nonsense. Like people, if that's the case, it would just go away completely. No, I don't think that's even open to discussion, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Frank, what do you see in the future for precious metals? Do you think that silver will recover? Because I don't know anybody.
Eventually, all these markets recover. Nothing is. Look, they said, well, the real estate market recovering. It's recovering. They said the financial market won't recover. It's recovering. And of course, gold will recover at some point in time. And regardless, the fundamentals are still there. You have heavy government borrowing and spending. You have sequestration. You have all variables in play that would only be conducive to fostering growth in the metals market. And I think that if the dollar starts to erode, and you'll start even erode like modestly, I think you'd see the metals come back up again. So to say that it's over, well, nothing is over. It's just a buying phase, and like any chart, top and bottom, shoulder. You have the peak, you have the decline, you have the trough, and then you have recovery. But it probably is going to take a bit of time, because nothing, of course, moves instantly. And I think that there's a lot of anticipation that the dollar will go down. And remember, it's easier for the dollar to go down from these levels than it is to go higher. And there's really no interest in having a high U.S. dollar, because basically it makes our cost to borrow, our cost to export, that much more expensive.
Frank, Mike Ma, I think you had a chance to meet Mike Ma at the Get Prepared Expo. He was really, really busy doing training, and he was teaching Tai Chi, and he was Hoi Chi, and he was really, really busy. And he came over to the farm during the weekend, this weekend, and he stayed at the farm with us for a couple days, and it was great to see him. And he said that I was asking him about Guatemala, and he said, I asked him about taxes in Guatemala, and he said, no, they can't collect taxes, and people won't pay it. He said, but what they do is they tax very heavily imports. So if it's coming into Guatemala, it's going to be taxed. They mentioned that he would buy a box of vitamins, and by the time they were done with him, the tax on this box of vitamins would be between $100 and $150 coming from outside the country into Guatemala. And he and I were talking about this, and you know, our taxes are absolutely out of control. And what's happened? I've mentioned that for me to have an expo in the city of Springfield, they will charge me 30% tax on top of, you know, all the fees that I'd be paying. 30% more would go to the city of Springfield, you know, for the pleasure of doing business there. And I won't pay it. I just won't pay it because I'd have to pass that on to our guests and our exhibitors. So I won't do it. Now, we were talking about taxes in Guatemala, and he said everything is taxed on that comes in. And so we extrapolated this out yesterday. We were talking about it. If we did the same thing, if we taxed imports, these Chinese imports, if we taxed them and got rid of all the other taxes, just taxed imports, what would happen is people would say, that Chinese crap is worthless. That stuff wears out. It breaks. It's in our landfills within a year. Why can't we make that stuff? Whatever it is, whether it be disc rotors, disc brakes, any front-end suspension parts, electronics, we could make it. And we would make it here in the United States because we'd say, why would we buy that stuff from China that's so heavily taxed? Because the final price of it with the tax would be higher than we could manufacture it here in America. So we would have businesses starting up all over America, bringing back America, bringing back the businesses that our politicians have shipped to China. All we have to do is tax imports. That's all we have to do, and get rid of all the other taxes. We could get rid of the IRS. We could get rid of the IRS spying on us. We could get rid of all these families that are on food stamps. We could get rid of welfare. We could get rid of all this just by having an import tax. Frank, what do you think?
We'll pick that up right after the break.
Okay. The ball's in your court. When we come back, Frank's got the con, and he's going to tell us what we do to restore America, and will the tax on imports work? We'll be right back. Frank's got the con, and that's CONN. That's a merchant marine term for I'm turning over the ship to Frank. Frank, I mentioned taxes, and I said that I think it'd be a great idea if we got rid of all taxes, and just had an import tax. And by doing so, we would be encouraging U.S. businesses to start back up and start manufacturing those goods which we have turned over to communist China.
Yeah, and I just wanted to get in, that'll never happen because these countries have more power over government than we do. We may vote them in and out, but in the end, they're all accountable to the foreign special interests. And that's why you'll never see a tax on anything that gets imported into this country. And if they did that, then they would just go and manufacture it here anyways. And, you know, you got to remember, the government is selected, not elected. And when they don't want to put, to help our businesses out, that shows you that, unfortunately, the powers that may be are against any relief for the American businesses here, whether they're on the street, small business, or whether it's Main Street. Caterpillar. There's really no interest for them to to, if anything, they're elected for an uneven playing field, so we get cheaper goods to begin with. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it will be for going outward. Because as you see, there's been a big drop in incomes. There's been a big drop in productivity. There's been a bigger increase in unemployment. There's been a bigger increase in inexpensive undocumented labor coming into this country, and I just want to touch on that part, that if people think it's bad now, you wait till unemployment goes down to 6.5%, down to 5%. You'll see a wave of cheap labor just migrating to this country, and I make a prediction here on the likes that you've never seen before. It'll make the 12-20 million here look like a small potato compared to what's going to come next. And that's why all this talk in Washington or around the country about immigration reform will not do a darn thing, just simply for the fact that there'll just be more and more coming here to capitalize on cheap labor. And when you have a rebound in one sector I follow here is the real estate sector. Developers are starting to go back to their abandoned construction sites to basically finish off where they left off, to pick up where they left off. And, of course, you're going to have stucco people, electrician people, roofing people. Well, where does that labor come from? It's going to do nothing to help us.
Yeah. Well, I have, I think I mentioned this. When I was in Virginia, I was a consultant to some school districts, a computer consultant, and I got a chance to just pretty much go and come as I pleased and do whatever I thought they needed to build great technology. And as long as I was able to keep our districts, the ones that I consulted for, ahead of everybody else, they just let me have, do my own thing, and it was wonderful. And I went to this, I supported this one technical school in Virginia. It was a high school. And they used to teach auto mechanics. They used to teach building trades like masonry, carpentry, electrical wiring, electrical construction, roofing, and they shut down the building trades. They stopped it. They stopped it in favor of computer stuff. Why have a saw and a hammer and nails and an auto body shop and welding? We can teach people how to use computers. We can teach them Microsoft Word. We can teach them Microsoft Excel. We can teach database access. We can teach them, great skills where they'll make lots of money. And we can teach them architecture, and we can teach them drafting. But no one in that school was picking up a hammer, a saw, nails, welding rods, actually doing plumbing. They weren't doing that anymore. Why? We don't need that stuff. I mean, come on. Who's going to fix our houses? Those are great trades. We need those trades. But our schools are failing us. We'll be right back. In class, Frank Underhill's getting lots of fan mail. And they're sending it to me at usaprepares.com. Frank, I'm just delighted to be with you. I just wanted to mention that meet up tonight and at Ziggy's, Springfield, Missouri, 5:30. Dr. Shealy is going to be there. He's going to spend hours with us talking about health. If you've got medical questions, he's going to be at Ziggy's for hours. So if you'd like to lower your blood pressure, if you would like to get free medical information, Dr. Norman Shealy, who's on every Wednesday with us right here on Genesis, will be at Ziggy's with me tonight. Also, Roy Birdsong's going to be there. He's going to be talking about avoiding being cell phone tracked. And John Dollarhite's going to be with us, and he's going to be talking about avoid computer tracking and make sure that you're not being spied upon as best you can be. and he's going to tell you the secrets of avoiding being spied upon on your computer. Now, tomorrow on Genesis, Dr. Patrick Vickers is going to be with us from Mexico, and at 9 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, Mike Ma is going to be with us. Mike Ma is always a hoot also. So one last thing I'd like to share with you. We did Frank, you and I haven't really talked about this. We have been talking about Walmart, and we did a 2-hour expose on Walmart on Friday morning on Genesis. And I have a post on the website, usaprepares.com, the 2-hour expose with David Klotz. And David Klotz was a 20-year veteran. He was trained by Walmart as a young man. He stayed with them for 20 years. He didn't like what he saw. He got out of Walmart, and he's been exposing it. And here's what happened. We talked about it, and he formed a band of individuals who wanted to prevent Walmart from just muscling their way into Springfield, Missouri. They were coming in a big way. There are 5 supercenters in Springfield right now. They have neighborhood markets, and they want yet another one. And he wanted the people to know about it. City Council approved a zoning change from a church that would be demolished where a Walmart neighborhood market would be built in its place. He got the signatures together. He did the legal process. He presented it to City Council to bring before the Springfield community a citywide vote on whether the zoning should be changed from a church to a Walmart supercenter in downtown Springfield. He got it to City Council. They said, okay, we've got to bring it to a vote now because you've got the 1,800 signatures. The next thing that happens is he goes on the air with me and talks about it. The next thing, he's fired the next day from another company because he was on the air with me talking about Walmart. Another company said, you know what, you're too passionate. What they really mean is this other company's in bed with Walmart, and Walmart used its pressure, and I believe they did, to get David Klotz fired as a manager of another big box store. So what I'm telling you is usaprepares.com instructors are being picked off one at a time. I've already gotten notice. I have to respond to the IRS because they've already sent a notice to our house. Yep. The IRS. So David Klotz, me, and there are a whole bunch of us that are being picked off one at a time. Here's what I'd like to request that you do, class. The Walmart expose, it's post number 1, top of the website, usaprepares.com, usaprepares.com. If you would go to that post, and if you would get the link from there and send that link to everyone on your email list and let them listen to the 2 hours, 1 hour at a time. You can give them the link, let them listen to the 2 hours of David Klotz and me exposing Walmart, who they are and how they are destroying this country. How are they destroying it? By encouraging and demanding cheap products from China, and they are sending our jobs elsewhere. And we cannot survive in this country by sweeping each other's carpets and flipping each other's hamburgers and washing each other's cars and windows and cutting each other's lawns. We're going down. We're going down, and we've got to stop it, and it's up to you. Don't expect anybody else to do it. Go to usaprepares.com and post number 1, send the link to that to everyone you know. I'm very serious. It is riveting. It really is. And I was told by our producer, Dave, who's producing the broadcast right now, during the production of that show, during the break, he said, Vincent, this is your best show. That's what he said. And I've heard a lot of comments about that, echoing what Dave said about that broadcast. So please share that with everybody you know. Frank, back to you.
Well, you know, and again, as I was saying, there's no worse enemy for this government than its own citizens. I went to a movie last night, and there was a trailer of Washington blowing up and all this stuff on all these. But this guy was yelling, "Oh, that'd be a good start," and everybody just started applauding in the theater.
Really? You know,
yeah.
Frank, years ago you could say that kind of stuff. You could mention a president's name and you could say whatever you wanted about him. Now people are in fear of saying anything negative about the government. So, and you know, it's interesting that Are you saying that the majority of the theater was applauding to that?
No, the whole theater was applauding, and one guy yelled, "That would be a good start," and everyone goes, "Yay!" and clapping, and this was the trailer of the movie. And, and I live in an all right area, and I would say it's the best part of town here, but to hear these kind of people, these, working class people applauding and, clapping at this guy's comment, that shows you where we're at. Even Woody Harrelson says that we would be better without government. No one would miss it. And regardless how crazy people think Woody Harrelson is, I think he's a stand-up guy, and he believes in the Constitution and free speech, and basically that's a good place to start. But you see, now you don't have freedom of the internet anymore. You don't have freedom of your mail. Mail can be opened up all the time. Same with email. Same with, again, it's just gotten over the cliff. A guy from Congress, the chairman of this committee, says that leaker is a threat to America. Well, I think Representative Peter King is a big threat to America. Voting for all these wars, voting for all this surveillance, voting like he's the threat.
Well, I got to agree with you. The post office
in Hong Kong did us all a favor. At least he only confirmed what people have long suspected.
Well, I'll tell you what I think about the guy who, the 29-year-old, Edward Snowden. Okay, this, they say that this is the biggest scandal in NSA. No, that's not true. This is the biggest scandal to ever hit any society, anywhere, any place, because it involves 330 million Americans have been spied on. Our mail has been photographed, front, back. The post office is absolutely broke, right? Our little post office has one parking space for customers. One. Literally, I'm not kidding. We have a post office that has one parking space for customers. It is the centerpiece of our town, and we had this guy come from the United States Postal Service to have a meeting to try to discuss with us what we would like, what our requests are, because they want to change the hours. This guy came from elsewhere, and he had his badge on backwards, so you couldn't see his name, and the gal that was with him, they send 2 Postal Service employees, and this gal had hers on, and I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble seeing your name. Your badge is backwards." It's like, oh man, this guy's going to be a real problem. That would be me. I'd be the problem. So I'm in this meeting, and I said, okay, you're telling us that our post office is going to stay, but you're going to reduce the hours. I said, this post office is the centerpiece of our little community. You are threatening us. You are threatening to destroy our community by taking out our post office. And I made that guy say publicly, no, we are not going to take away your post office. We're just going to reduce the hours. So the post office is open for a couple hours in the morning, and then they close. And then they're open for a couple hours in the afternoon, and then they close. That's the most mismanaged organization. But at the same time, they can't stay open for who? You and me and the rest of our community. They've got to close because they can't pay the postal workers to be there for the whole day. They're only going to pay them for a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the afternoon. And that makes them part-time employees, right? Well, they're going to do that to them at the same time. At the same time, the United States Postal Service spends $60 billion on equipment to photograph the front and back of every piece of mail. For what? For what? What did we do? What did we do to cause that? Photograph every piece of mail, front and back. What did we do? What did we do to cause the government to listen in on every single one of our phone calls, read every one of our emails, store every phone call, store every email, store every text? What did we do? We didn't do anything. Those are the guys. These Congress critters who we have elected, supposedly. These guys are spending us into oblivion. Frank, I propose that Missouri pass a bill that says any representative who does not read every single word of every single bill that he or she votes on and fully understand every word of every bill that he or she votes on will be committing a felony subject to prison of 10, not less than 10 years in the clink. That was my proposal. What do you think?
Well, it's a good place to start, but I look at this fellow who, fleeing off to Hong Kong of all places, and giving an interview to The Guardian, which is, I think, a liberal or libertarian newspaper in the UK, because he felt if he came out with this story here in the United States, nobody would print it.
He's right. He's absolutely right. If you think that you're going to get the news from ABC, CBS, NBC, no. Frank, we exposed on this program keywords. Let me ask you: have you ever? Shoot, we're going into a break. Frank, I want to share this with you. Have you ever been in a fraternity or an organization that has a secret password?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, all right, I'm going to share with you something when we come back. You might find it interesting. Frank Underhill, CEO of UndurhillSecurities.com. We'll be right back. I've got way more dials and buttons than I should be allowed to have here, so I'm going to try this. Frank, when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, a large social fraternity, Tau Kappa Epsilon, and we have a secret handshake, but we don't drink blood and do any of that stuff. It's just kind of a social thing. And anyway, we had a secret handshake. Now, media has a secret handshake, but they can say it on the air, and one of the words that they use is gracious. I'm going to play a clip, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about.
By the way, listen to this montage yesterday and last night from the drive-by media.
What really struck the Obama camp was how gracious President Bush was.
It was one gracious couple welcoming another.
The senator remarked how gracious President Bush was.
They were incredibly gracious.
President and Mrs. Bush were extremely gracious.
George W. Bush has been incredibly gracious.
President Bush has made this pretty easy by being so gracious.
It's very gracious of President Bush.
Everything we're hearing is that he was very, very gracious.
This is President Bush at his best, being very gracious.
A visit that aides described as gracious.
The Bushes are very gracious and decent people.
The Bushes, who are very gracious people, they're being gracious about it.
President Bush has been totally gracious.
President Bush has been extremely gracious.
Laura and George Bush could not have been more gracious.
The grace, the class that the Bushes showed.
I keep hearing reports that the president has been very gracious about all this.
Those last two voices you heard were the forehead, Paul Begala and Charlie Rose. Now, this is beyond absurd, and it is infuriating, because whatever you think on policy, all of these people have known for 8 years what a decent and gracious man George W. Bush is. They sought to destroy him. He didn't fight back. Now, all of a sudden, he's being nice to Obama. He's being nice to the Messiah. Well, look at what a gracious and decent guy George W. Bush is. It's another indictment of the unprofessionalism of journalists today.
There you go. There you go. What I wanted to share with you was the code word, gracious. And that's like saying, hey, I'm with you. Don't send the IRS over to my house. Don't send the IRS over to my business. I'm with you. I wouldn't say anything against you guys. That's just a code word. So when people say on the air, I'm not a conspiracy guy, I'm the anti-conspiracy guy, I don't believe in these conspiracies, the president is gracious. Those are the code words. Those are the code words saying, I'm with you. Don't come after me. I'm with you. Just wanted to share that with you, Frank. What do you think?
Well, there's too much graciousness going on around here. Nothing getting... That's what I think. And I think that word's just plain egregious. I don't use it in my vocabulary. And I was brought up in the old Queen's English, and I think that's a big code word.
Isn't that what's interesting to me And there it is. There's another ad for Tire Rack right in front of my screen. It's nonstop. Tire Rack. Everywhere I go on the internet, I'm getting ads for Tire Rack. I mean, they are tracking me because I buy tires there, and I just bought some a couple weeks ago. Anyway, gracious. We all know what it means. It's in our lexicon. But heck, when was the last time we used gracious? I can't remember, other than mentioning that it's a code word. Other than that, I don't use it. I know what it means.
This is why I tune out the Sunday talk show circuit. You have the same people on there all the time talking about. I just say, get these fossils off the stage, and we have to live our lives. And there's always that message. And as for that fellow who's in China, I'm glad somebody like that came out. And
he's a hero.
And any of the stuff they've done, I don't know if it's prevented any, quote, terrorist attacks or anything. And
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Bombing, that got through, and they had all this PRISM in place. So
I think these TSA guys sell these nail clippers on eBay. Frank Underhill, let me give you his number if you'd like to call him, 702-987-5449, 702-987-5449. Frank Underhill, specializing in agricultural and mining and resource issues. If you'd like information about what you should do, what you need to think about, where he thinks the information leads, Frank Underhill, 702-987-5449. Frank, you've got a fan club. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.